August 23rd, I believe, here in Southern Ontario, Canada. If you've been following my videos about the EVs, the electrical vehicles, you might have garnered the sense I don't like them. I have nothing against them at all. What I have a problem with is a technology that is not adequately developed being foisted upon us, mandated and dictated. Let's step back into history to start with. I'm not sure when the first electric vehicle was made. 1890, absolutely. They were around then. I'm not sure when Thomas Alva Edison developed a nickel iron battery just for electric vehicles. Somewhere around the turn of the century, 1900 century, there were more electric vehicles in the big northeastern states, New York City and Chicago, than there were internal combustion engines. Now, I'm going to go off on a little sidetrack for a moment with internal combustion engines. They were in their infancy then, and part of the problem with them was the carburetor really hadn't been resolved yet, so they often burst into flames, as well as being unreliable, difficult to start, loud, noisy. Actually, 1902, the first Harley Davidson, the Davidson brothers Harley, was it, and Evinrude of boat motor fame developed the carburetor, and that made big strides forward in the internal combustion engine, having a reliable carburetor. I know, stick with me, I'll get out of the internal combustion engine in just a moment here. Arguably the first reliable internal combustion engine was made in France by a fellow named Dion, who unfortunately then spent the rest of his life running around the world chasing patent infringements. I think his first motor was a 1/4 horsepower and it ended up around 1.5 horsepower. If you want to see what that engine looks like, you can go to a modern Briggs & Stratton side valve motor. It's little changed. And if you're really interested in the evolution of the internal combustion engine, go to motorcycling, not cars. They were lighter and simpler. But back to our electrical vehicles. The problem with them then is the same as it is now. The basic problem is unchanged. And that is loss in transmission and loss in storage. The lithium-ion batteries, I'm sure, have made great strides forward from Edison's nickel-iron battery in storage and capacity and time to charge, general efficiency. However, that basic problem still is a basic problem. Then we move to our grid. Is there a grid on the face of the earth? Certainly not here in Southern Ontario that could handle. If everyone switched to electrical vehicles tomorrow, we'd have to increase the capacity of the grid by 4 times. We're broke here in Canada. Trudeau's WEF agenda. Let's not get into the politics of it. The grid can't handle it. That's inarguable. Nobody can argue that. If 5%, 10% certainly, of the motor vehicles out on the open road tomorrow went to EVs, the grid couldn't handle it. Then we have the problem of, where does the hydro come from? You bought an EV, you think it comes from the Twilight Zone? Star Trek dilithium crystals? No, we have to generate that power. Oh, the politicians tell us, what do they call it? Renewable energy sources. Wind turbines. We've been messing with those for decades. They don't pay for themselves, dollar for dollar. or in a green sense, or a carbon footprint. Was it 30 years ago, something like that, here in southern Ontario? Based on politics and votes, keeps coming back to that, doesn't it? The Ontario government bought wind turbines from the Danish, and the Danes said, we've been messing with this at that point in time for 30 years. They don't pay for themselves, not in greenbacks or in a green sense, and they haven't evolved any further. Solar panels, same deal. They don't pay for themselves, dollar for dollar, or in a green carbon emission sense, or to save the climate crisis. Our technology is not there. We're not there yet. It's not here yet. If you bought an EV, you've been sold a bill of goods. And right now, it might be paying you in your pocket until the insurance, the missing road tax from the fuel, etc., catches up. And something I seldom see anyone talking about is when your EV is at the end of its lifespan, the batteries, 6 to 10 years max, no arguing that one, how do you get rid of it? You're going to take it to the scrapyard? They're going to say, hey, that car's made out of plastic petroleum products. Yeah, there's a lot of copper in the motors, but not enough copper in those motors to salvage to pay for the toxic waste of the batteries. So how are you going to dispose of that car? Yeah, you might be saving a few bucks on fuel today, charging that car. Maybe, sometimes. Amortize your costs. You've been sold a bill of goods. It's a political sucker ploy. So my problem is not with EV cars, or that we continue to work on the evolution of this technology. It's in the nuts and the bolts, and in the politics, and in the money. And it's a bit of a carbon trail leading back to Davos, Switzerland and all this too. Don't think there isn't.